Elissa, thank you for joining us on the Wyoming Business Spotlight. I'm happy to see you again, and we're going to get into something that's a different passion for you, and that is business.
Yes.
So you're a third-generation Wyomingite. You're a business owner, and that's what we're going to get into today, and also a state representative. So the first question is, how do you find the time? You work on 26, 27-hour days?
Try. If there was a magic potion to, get 34 hours in a 24-hour day, it does keep me busy. It does keep me busy.
Sure it does.
Yeah. Work a lot of hours, and typically then I'm volunteering on the weekends. So, yeah, it keeps me busy.
Yeah, driving a lot, I'm sure.
Driving a lot.
Getting down to Sheridan or Cheyenne, but also everywhere else because you have to talk to the people. So
I do.
everywhere.
But we have a beautiful state.
We do. It's
so
awesome.
Windshield time is a good thing.
And it's a beautiful time to be driving too. It's
Yes.
the spring, summer are the best times in this. I think spring and summer is when we remember why we live in Wyoming, because it's just beautiful. I mean, I like the snow too, but this is just the best part.
Being on the road in February is not my favorite.
I can imagine. So, with your deep roots in Wyoming, how did that shape your path for business? How does that affect your path?
So interesting story. Yeah. So my path was very different. And then I was living and working in California for about 10 years and was working for a manufacturing plant and was sent to a Dale Carnegie course. I was a new supervisor, and I'm not sure why they thought it would be a good idea to put, a 25-year-old in charge of people, because I knew everything. That's why. So
Sounds about right.
so was enrolled in the Dale Carnegie course, and that was really my first experience with this training and development, right? How do we help people just become better? And light bulbs went off all over the place, and I thought, this is really what I want to do. This is how I can help people in our community and help grow business and help grow, all of the things. So that's kind of where it started. Is this is how I can do this. Had nothing to do with my education, nothing to do with my background, but it really was, I think, what drives me. Yeah, how do I help you be better? So that's where it started.
So, what was the spark that said, "Hey, I'm going to start my own company, my own consulting company"?
So that was when we moved back to Wyoming. I was under the Dale Carnegie and Associates franchise. So the franchisee at the time had Wyoming, but there was no activity here. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey, you're not doing anything in Wyoming. Can I just take that over?" And he said, "Absolutely." So I managed the state of Wyoming for about, I don't even know, 20 years. All things Carnegie. And I absolutely love Carnegie and all of his writings. Just brilliant, not only at the time, but today, still very relevant. But I was locked into. So most of the businesses that I worked with had other needs and other challenges that didn't necessarily fall within the Carnegie scope. There's a lot more resources out there. So 2017, I think, I talked to a few of them and said, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking. And is it just the Carnegie name, or is it, if I leave the Carnegie name, am I in trouble?" And they all said, no, it's you. So started Elevate Wyoming and took a couple of weeks just to, how do you find a business name that really encapsulates who you are? So Elevate Wyoming was what stuck. Because it is how I can help elevate our businesses, our landscape, just who we are as a state. So now I have access to all of the resources that are out there, and I can build it and really customize whatever businesses need.
Right. Have you always done it alone, or have you worked with a team in the past?
No, I had a very large, so started it and had a very large team. I think at one point there were 5 of us. Yeah, 5 of us. And then other paths in other directions. And so now it's back to me. So
on your website, you talk about how you specialize in team cohesion and conflict management. Is there a common factor that a lot of Wyoming business or organizations face in that bring out that need to address team cohesion and conflict management?
I think every business. It doesn't matter the business. It doesn't matter the industry. When you put 2 people in the same space,
right?
And very few of us work in isolation. So anytime you have 2 people in the same space, there's an opportunity for these challenges and, great things to happen. So there's a lot of commonality And that's what I've learned. I have worked in every industry with small businesses, big businesses, nonprofits, government entities. And it's all the same.
Right.
We're working with people.
Do you focus primarily on larger businesses or medium-sized businesses, or where's your demographic?
All of the above.
Businesses in general.
Yeah, it's just people.
Right.
And that's typically what I tell. I mean, when I'm working with a company, I don't know what your job is. I don't live in your world, right? If I'm working with welders, I'm not out welding, fabricating 10 hours a day. I don't know that world, but I know people.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just giving them the tools and the information that's in my head and saying, here's what I know about people and how to make your lives easier. And then we take what I know and combine it with what they know, and it just gives them, they're better equipped.
So when did you feel like this was making an impact? And this is really what you wanted to do with your life? Is it, is there a story you can tell us about that?
A thing. That was challenging for a long time, because there's this satisfaction, if you're building something, if you're, have a product that you can show and you can say, look what I did, right? And in my line of work, there really isn't that. It's more the anecdotal and hearing stories, from folks about just how much more effective, how better things are. So I don't know. One of the best stories, I think, started working with Jonah Bank years and years and years ago. And their goal in bringing me in, they said, we want to hold on to the culture that is unique to us. What makes us us. We don't want to be this corporate juggernaut, right? We want to hold on to what makes us us and grow. How do we do that? And we want our supervisors and managers to truly, take on really just better developing people. How do we help these folks, reach their potential? So brought me in, and my first question was, okay, so here's our game plan for the next few years. How do we measure that? How do we measure success? What do the metrics look like? And I was looking at, turnover and profitability. I mean, all of these numbers that I could attach. And Kim DeVore at the time said, I understand, that we're a bank and we're financial based, and those numbers aren't important to us. It's about the relationships and how people feel, when they work here, and how people feel when they work with us. And I said, that's much more difficult to measure. But that's what it is, right? Is hearing from the supervisors and the managers and seeing the very little turnover because people love where they are.
Right.
So it's those things that matter. It's how people feel. It's how engaged they feel, how, their sense of belonging, how the culture feels when you walk in.
Right.
So I don't know if it's always not something I can put a number to.
For sure.
But the people that work there,
right,
let me know.
It seems to me that describes Wyoming. It should describe it everywhere, but it seems like that is a common thread. What I see in businesses is that we're a relational community, and there's relationships matter. What are there other common threads that you see? Because you touch it all. You touch healthcare, oil and gas, financial. What is that common thread that you see or that you focus on in all of these industries here in Wyoming?
So the biggest thing is that relationship piece, right? Even when I'm working with salespeople, you have new salespeople and learning the processes and just putting systems and processes in place to just be more effective in sales. The first thing we talk about is how important relationships are in Wyoming. I mean, you can cold call and knock on doors all day long, and you'll just annoy people. They get to know them, take a genuine interest in
100%.
them. So how much of it is relationship-based and communication-based?
Right.
It doesn't matter how big, how small. Communication is always a challenge.
I was speaking to a banker yesterday that's a transplant that just got here, and but chose to be here. It wasn't a forced transfer. But he was surprised by the fact that that people in his bank that have been there for years and years and years will still ask the question. And in this case, it was a lady that had been in their bank for 20 years. She still asked her friends and family about where she should get a bank loan for her business project. And that banker was surprised. And I said, that truly describes Wyoming. It's not because we're already working there. It's what do my friends and family or my colleagues, what are their experiences? Because it's all about the relationship, the relational aspect of business.
Exactly.
Thanks for watching today. These podcasts are powered by PayRock, and PayRock is a payment solutions provider. We work with any size business or nonprofit, improving those payment acceptance efficiencies while reducing those overall costs. You can get a hold of me through any one of those social media channels, or you can give me a call. Let's get back to that podcast. So talk to us about your progress of diagnosing different companies. What's that process look like when you walk into a business and you're trying to bring added value in the relational aspect? What does that look like?
So for most people, it's difficult for us to articulate maybe what we want or where we want to be, but we have a pretty good idea of what we don't like and what's not working. So that's typically the first conversation is what's going on, what is not effective, what is, some of those challenges and concerns and, what's going on right now. And then after talking about this is some of the challenges that we're facing right now. So what do you want it to look like? We have a team that is not functioning well. So what does that look like? And so ideally, what does a cohesive, high-performing team look like for you? And then start to map out. So here's where we are, but here's where we want to be, and what are those disconnects? Because then it's my job really to be able to identify both ends of that and really understand the story, the narrative right now, and what that looks like. And then I can build those pieces to get us from here to there.
We talk a lot about culture, company culture. How would you describe that? What does company culture look like in each individual business?
Each business. So I think the most important thing that I help people understand is culture is what we choose. And it is, we have the power to make it what we want it to be. So culture is really who we are and how we do things. So what happens is, and it's with any relationship, right? I was actually I've been out at J.W. Williams working for a while, and we were having this conversation about culture. And one of the guys is newly married, so we were talking to him, and then one of the guys who's been married for 20 years. And the difference, right? Because at the beginning, whether it's a new hire, you're dating someone new, we are very mindful and pay attention to and do all of the things. And then we get comfortable, and then we get complacent, and then we stop paying attention to those things. And then 20 years later, we're like, who are you? You're still here? In either case, right? We have those employees that are just really solid. So we stop paying attention to them and take them for granted. So the punchline was, that's what culture is, right? Stay in dating mode all the time. We have to be intentional, and we have to be mindful because we will become what we tolerate.
Do you think that success in business, whatever goals they have, whether it's hitting certain numbers or metrics, can we achieve that without describing culture, without defining it and working on it?
I think, you can, right? I know for me, with Elevate, I set out with very clear intentions of who I was and who the business, who we are. Very relationship-based, very people-based, very how do I help you based. And then, you start adding people and growing your team, and we had 5 of us. And then as the owner, my brain started to switch into this, I have 5 people that I'm responsible for with salaries, and they have mortgages, and they have kids. And so profit became the driving force for me. So it was, how many contracts, and my focus was just on the profitability so I could take care of these people. And I lost sight of the real why. And so our culture became something it was just gross. I woke up one morning and I felt gross. It felt gross. It's like, this is not who we are. So I think it just depends on your company, right? And what is important. And if people are important, then those are the metrics we need to set. It's value-based, it's interaction-based, it's where if you view, people are just cogs in the machine and they're there to make money and make the business profitable, then that will become your culture, right? And it'll feel very transactional, and it will feel very, I'm just here to do my job, right? So you won't get that, I'm going to do more. I'm not going to, think differently, be innovative, be creative. I'm just going to show up and do my job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess that does create that monotonous state of being in a company.
And if you're good with that, kudos to you, right?
But I wonder if you can reach your potential by not focusing on the relational aspect. I'm not convinced.
I'm not either.
I mean, people find success, in certain areas, but I wonder if everyone is limited, because I don't think we're made to work by ourselves independently and not interact with people around us and work on those relationships.
We are very social critters. Yep.
We are, and I think our society is pushing us, pushing us apart, whether it's through our interactions with social media or our cell phones or things like that. But I think we need to be intentional about creating those moments of community, whether it's in the workplace or outside the workplace, because we're not made to be. I have a really hard time with the word solopreneur, because they just work from home. A lot of people never get out from their home offices, and I don't think that's what we're made for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's been a challenge. Probably, I don't even know, 10, 15 years ago, working with a lot of our businesses, was getting feedback from them that the workforce was challenging, because we have kids coming out of, high schools and colleges that have lost that interpersonal capability, right? I don't know. I'm not good at having conversations with people, because we had become so isolated. So, we're used to conversation through text. That's not how we communicate with people, right? There's no connection there.
Correct.
So that's a challenge. Yeah. How do we maintain that person-to-person connection? Because that's how we're wired.
For sure. There's a degradation of these relational aspects, whether it's the communication just purely relating to people, but also even in vocabulary, because we don't speak the same way on text messages than we do face to face, and I think that social media is obviously a tool that can be great, but we have to harness it. We have to be in charge of it. It can't be in charge of us. We talk a lot about relational equity as well. It's a term that people are throwing around these last few years in psychology. Is that something that you focus on a little bit? Do you work with it? That concept of being able to build that equity in someone, to be able to be real with them, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. To quote John Maxwell.
Right. I love it. One of my favorite things is when I'm working with, I'm in oil and gas, or I mean, you just think of the really more rough professions.
Right.
And so we'll talk about vulnerability. And the guys look at me like, seriously?
Right.
No.
I can imagine.
No. And I tell them I get it, I get it. I'm not a warm and fuzzy, let's hug it out kind of person either. So, but we tend to think of vulnerability as this very negative, weakness almost. And it's just the opposite. Right? Vulnerability means that we have a relationship based on trust. So I can be honest with you. I mean, just completely honest and lay it out there and say, I'm struggling. I messed up. I dropped the ball. I'm overwhelmed right now. I need help. I have to be able to trust you and trust that you will receive that well and react in a positive manner. Right? And organizations that have that, that vulnerability where we can just be honest with each other and say, man, the other day when you did that thing, didn't sit well with me. Or the thing you did, that was so cool. I appreciate you doing that. So there is this weird, to be human is sometimes viewed as a weakness. So helping folks see that it's, how huge and significant that is in business, and we are far more profitable and far more successful. Yeah, when people can just be people. But
For sure.
getting folks to wrap their brain around that sometimes is tough.
Takes time. That's why you have why you do what you do. But there is those two ends of the bookshelf of being, I'm going to be hard and crass and confront people, and then there'd be super soft and warm and fuzzy. And it's like I think there's a middle ground.
There is.
I think that resilience seems to describe what's Wyomingites are. They have to be resilient to live here, whether it's through the winters or through, a lot of people are working in the oil and gas. So they have to have that hard aspect to them. But I think that vulnerability can bring balance to them. It's not because you're vulnerable and you're intentional with your relationship that you're soft.
Right.
Doesn't mean that.
Right. And I think there's one of the things, is common is we tend to have this, well, I'll use myself as an example. So, when I was asked to go to the first Dale Carnegie course by my supervisor, it's like, why? I'm brilliant. It's these people that have a problem. But one of the things he told me was, I need you to learn there's a difference between being brutal and being honest. You need to learn how to be honest with people, because I was brutal. It was, I will tell you, and whether I dismiss, disregard, shred you as a human, I told you the truth. What's your deal? So how to be respectful, and we can be direct, we can be honest, and we can be respectful, and treat people with dignity. So it's not a one extreme or the other, right? It's how do we find that middle ground so we can be direct, we can be honest, and
I think that comes through communication as well, communicating on things that are easy to communicate, and then communicating on things that are less difficult or less easy to communicate. And that environment of communication gives us the platform to be direct if we have to, or confrontational. But I don't think confrontation doesn't always have to be aggressive, but you can confront. I think that you can confront in a way that's effective, but doesn't have to, be, hurt their feelings or things of that nature.
Yeah, there's a significant difference, I think, between confrontational and contentious. Yes, and it's oftentimes how it's our mindset, how we look at those difficult conversations, right? If we look at this conversation is difficult because I'm uncomfortable having it, that's one way to go in. Another mindset is, if I don't have this conversation with you, I am doing you a disservice.
Right.
And that's not okay, right? So I am willing to have this conversation and maybe be a little uncomfortable, because that's how I do right by you.
Right.
And respect you. And not having that conversation is disrespectful.
Right. And I think that comes also from the point of view of wanting the best for that person, whether that means they're going to stay in your organization or not, but you have to communicate that for their best interests, not necessarily the best interests of the organization.
I think there was, and I can't remember who said it, so I'm not even going to guess, but there was someone far more brilliant than I said something to the effect of, and you probably know who it was, what happens if we invest all of this time and energy in our employees and then they leave? And the counter was, what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah. I don't know who said that, but
right?
I heard that. Yeah.
And so the goal is, right, yeah, invest in people. More times than not, that gives them the reason to stay. Yeah.
We look at investment from a financial point of view or an asset acquisition point of view, but there's a whole nother level of investment when you look at it, looking at people. If you could point out one thing that businesses are overlooking in their investment in people, what would it be? What are they not focusing on enough?
I think that in and of itself. That's why the industry I'm in is so challenging, because I am very much tied to the economy. And when things are good, it's good. And when things are not, it's very difficult. Because investing in people is viewed as a luxury. Yeah. When we have additional funding that's not allocated, then we'll invest in our people. If we don't have that, then we're investing in, machinery and equipment and salaries and, just basic operational. And then maybe we'll get to people. So the organizations that flip that and view their people as that, their greatest asset.
Mm-hmm.
Without your people, you don't have a business.
Right.
So invest in them first,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's the same challenge, I think, just personally, where there was the, whatever the 10%, invest in retirement or savings. So invest in yourself and your future first and then pay your expenses. And for most people, that's counterintuitive. It's like, no, I need to pay for my expenses first. And then if there's anything left over, I'll invest in me. That doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So it's flipping that mindset. Your people
Right.
are the most important asset you have.
Absolutely. I believe that. And I think we have to be cognizant of the bottom line, obviously, but at the same time, human capital, which sounds like a word that sounds like it's a little bit standoffish, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
It's just as much, it's just as important as the machinery that you're buying and things like that, or even more important to be fair. It's more important.
If you cannot retain people and cannot hire people, you have no business.
Right.
So.
And it affects quality long term. A lot of people want to invest in what's easy. They want to invest in what's, they can, they can write it on a spreadsheet and say, we invested in this, it produced this much, this in results. But if we don't invest, we do have those cyclic environments where there's a heavy staff turnover, and then no one wants to come and work for you, and your quality is degrading. Your end product is not
customer experience. Yeah.
People know it too. People know when your environment, your staff are being understood and listened to. It's the product is affected. The customer experience is affected, and people don't always realize that. So is that one of your main things you focus on, or what do you have? What is there a list of things that you try to cover every time, or is it customized for every single environment?
It truly depends.
Right.
Yeah, on the environment, and that's what I love about what I do, because every situation is different. Even with leadership, Casper, right? People will say, "Well, you do the same thing over and over again. It doesn't get boring." And I'm like, I don't do the same thing ever, because it's different people. They have different realities. They have different, things. I mean, they're common similarities, but they're different people and different perspectives and even different topics. So yeah, it's different every time. So while it's, I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So, it's fascinating to me, but the more we understand people and the more we understand how they work and why they work and why they do what they do, it can take many shapes and forms and,
right.
Yeah, so it's different every day.
You talked about measuring success. How do you measure success with your 28 years of experience? What does that look like to you?
I'm one of those weird people. So, and I'll give you maybe an example. So when my son was in, probably high school, I was probably at 15, 16, we're standing, I have a relatively small house. Standing in the kitchen, he says, we're like lower income, right? I said, why do you think that? And he said, well, we live in a really small house, and, you drive granddad's old truck. You don't have a new truck. We don't have, we don't have a boat. We don't have, all of the big shiny things, right? And I said, you're absolutely right. We don't. And how many kiddos in Wyoming, got their passport when they were 3.5? Can you list the number of countries you've traveled to? And so we start going through, right? Because for me, it's about experience and joy and happy. And so it's not about the things I have. It's not about the, the big and shiny. And it's do I personally feel happy and joy in what I do? And if there's ever a day that I wake up and, I'm like, I don't want to go to work. I really don't want to do this. Then I'm doing something wrong. Yeah.
Because is your purpose truly to? It sounds like your purpose truly is to bring to empower people to reach their full potential.
Help. Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah. If I can help you, your business, your my community be better, then that drives me, and that's where my personal satisfaction comes from.
Right. When we look at Wyoming as a whole, there's challenges that Wyoming faces as well, and you're trying to address those as as a state representative. But we talk about housing shortages and then the brain drain. Someone said that our biggest export here in Casper is our children, which I have experienced. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things, and it's. How do those challenges? How are they met in organizations here in Casper? Are they trying? Are things they're trying to improve on?
Well, hopefully. I mean, because that is the challenge. When we have this exodus of not only youth, I would say that's like 16 to 35.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the exodus but the challenges in bringing new in. You just look at our population numbers. I mean, we're aging out quickly, and that's not being replenished,
Right?
Right. So it does. It affects our workforce. It affects our ability to. I mean, our customer base. It affects a lot of things. So I think for us, it's figuring out, how do we create the space and the opportunities for people to stay or for people to want to come back. And I'm not sure we're doing a great job with that right now, but hopefully that will be some of the focus is, diversifying our economy and diversifying opportunities. And one of the programs I started years ago was Be Entrepreneurial for high school kids, because so many of them were like, this is what I love to do, and it's not here. So I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm going to go to California. I'm going to go to wherever because that's where the opportunity is. And I said, do you love it here? I do, but I can't do what I want to do. You can. And here's how we do that, right? Start a business.
Right.
So I think it's creating the space for that to happen and more of that to happen. So we have the opportunities here.
Do you see that some companies here or some organizations are trying to address these issues? Mm-hmm. How do you see that?
So I think part of it is we waited so long. I mean, just the youth exodus, that's been a conversation since I was in high school. That's over 30 years ago. Yeah. Right? And I wouldn't say things are dramatically different than they were 30 years ago. So we talk about it a lot. Mm-hmm. And we talk about what that looks like, and we have committees and task forces and collaboration, and we talk a lot. But there's very little action. And I think part of the challenge is in Wyoming, we equate growth with population. And so people say, I don't want more people living here.
Right.
I don't either. I am really happy with how we are. But growth doesn't mean growing in size, mm-hmm. right? It's how we think and how we do things. And we are so locked in this mindset of that's not how we do things here. This is how we've done it, and this is how we've always done it. That's a problem.
And we're going to get the same results because we haven't changed.
Every time.
Yeah.
So it is. It's that we see what we want to have happen, and yet we're hesitant to actually do big things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's a challenge. And so much of it now, because it has been 30 years, it just gets progressively bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so now we're going, oh, wow, we're in trouble. Yeah, we are. We should have started this 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? So now it's such a significant lift. I think it's too much for one entity, right? It really is going to be a team effort, with lots of contributors.
Right.
Yeah, so working together.
Not to be a pessimist, but do you think it's too late?
I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I just think it has to matter to us.
Right.
One of the things that I learned from my dad, I was probably, 15 or 16 at the time, and he asked me if I cared about an issue that was going on, and I said, absolutely, I care. And he said, so what are you going to do about it? Mm. Well, it's not mine to do, right? And it's somebody else. It's somebody else's job. That's not my job. Right. And he said, no, I mean, it is. It is your responsibility. And so care requires action.
Mm-hmm.
If you care about something and truly care about it, then that requires, I mean, you're mandated to actually do something about it. So I think that's where we've got to be, right? Just not talking about it. It's, if you care about this, show me.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some.
What are we going to do?
There are truly remarkable things that are happening here
Mm-hmm.
in Casper, whether it's inventions with Frog Creek Partners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some truly remarkable things that are happening
Yeah.
here. So it's not as if we're isolated, living on an island, and nothing happens in Casper.
Mm-hmm.
There's some pretty amazing things, and I
Really
think we're
brilliant things.
very blessed as well to be in the size of city that we're
Mm-hmm.
at, because 60 some thousand is still large enough to find a certain level of success,
Mm-hmm.
but still small enough to work on those relational aspects and to know your community. We're not Denver, we're not San Francisco, we're not these large, Texas, we're not these huge towns where it's hard to know even your own neighbor.
Right.
So I think there's a lot going for Casper. That's for sure.
There is. And we talk about, I mean, the exodus of youth and the lack of opportunity and the lack of housing and the lack of, healthcare. I think for me personally, a lot of that is this siloed effect. Casper tends to just look at Casper. Cheyenne looks at Cheyenne. Gillette looks at Gillette. So we tend to be very internal focused, in terms of my community, and not looking at the bigger picture in terms of Wyoming. And this is a problem for all of us. Mm-hmm. So how do we address that?
Right.
It takes all of us working together.
I think so.
Which I think we're doing a much better job of now. But
so how do you work with the high schools? Is that something you're still doing today? Is it through Elevate Wyoming or is it through another organization?
So I was, in the high schools at Roosevelt and in Jonah County for several years. I'm not anymore. Primarily, it was interesting because we came up with a program for our high school kids that was very much leadership based, communication skills, interpersonal relationship skills. Just how do you know and interact with people better. And there was an interesting conversation between, whether it was businesses or the school district, or the common response for about a year and a half was, love this idea. This is very much needed, but it's not ours to pay for. It's theirs to pay for, right? It's somebody else's responsibility. So it took about a year and a half, and then finally got it approved through BOCES. So the kids could get dual credit. They get high school credit, college credit, and BOCES paid for it. Brilliant. Love it. Everybody was on board. So then working, for 5 or 6 years, the demand on me and my time, at one point I penciled out, I'm making like $3 an hour. That is not sustainable. My mortgage company,
Right.
is demanding funds.
You should understand.
Oh, man. So it was tough. And that's just one of the challenges, right? How do we pay for these things? So worked in the high schools, for a very long time, and then that kind of phased out. So still work with high school kids in various capacities, but I think that is one of the most untapped resources in our community.
There are some things that are happening at the college level at Casper College, but I do for entrepreneurs and instilling in youth and young adults that business and entrepreneurship is possible. It's achievable here in Casper, but I do think that it would be great to do more in the high school level, because that's where it starts. That's where these ideas. Even junior high to start in these to believe that the ideas they have could actually come to life. Yeah,
and I think that's the connect, right? Because there's some incredible ideas in that demographic, but they haven't had the time to build the network and the resources and the where do I go and where do I start.
Right.
We do, right? So here's an idea, and we take that idea and plug it into my network and my resources. Well, now I have somewhere to go, right? Really cool. So LCCC, started this high school program and then worked with LCCC, and they actually have an entrepreneurial, certificate now.
That's
and,
great.
And, credit for high school kids. And it's just brilliant because they are very well equipped. They have a really cool lab down there. So I think if more community colleges did that, and then, those credits, that certification, maybe ties into a 4-year degree
Right.
if they wanted it to be. But
For sure.
yeah, having a lot more connectivity between our high schools, our colleges, our university, and the adaptability, to really pivot quickly, where our community colleges and university, it tends to be a much longer process.
True.
So maybe aren't as flexible.
Right. But I think it starts with not passing the buck, not assuming that it's, someone else's problem, and that's, it goes back to human nature. We always want to see, we don't want to even take responsibility for our own children. It's the school's responsibility to train them and teach them, but it's not. You don't give your children to the school system and expect them to come out perfect. It doesn't work.
No, we got to work together.
We do, absolutely. I also like saying on the college level, there in the last recent years, maybe it's already 10 years. I'm not sure when it started, but you do see these bachelors in entrepreneurship, things like that. And that's, it's not your classic business degree. It's truly entrepreneurship. And I think that's great. Because I do think that small business and entrepreneurship is the backbone of our country, and so we need to support that as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And I love, seeing all the new programs and certificates. My youngest is actually working on, will finish bachelor's degree in organizational leadership.
All right,
that didn't exist when I was in school, but it's how do we create more certificate programs, more associates and bachelors that really do fit not only our workforce needs, but what people want to be doing.
All right. Sounds like a degree that you might have created.
I might have had a little influence on that one.
What about diversification? We talk about how Wyoming needs to diversify, especially energy, because we're very tied to oil and gas. Do you see that changing, or how would you see that improving? Because that could be one of the answers to youth retention.
So I'm gonna kick this door open pretty hard. Because it's one of those topics that tend to be pretty divisive. So I'm part of a team really working, to expand in terms of our energy and expanding into nuclear and the opportunities that are there, not only in terms of manufacturing and technology. Man, that would just blow the doors open in terms of opportunity here. And the biggest, I think, challenge that we've been running into, or that I personally have been running into, is because it is unfamiliar, the fear is just, wow. And primarily lack of education, because when we think of nuclear, we think of 1940s, 1950s, and we're not there. It is so significantly different. And what's also interesting is when you look at our legacy industries, right, oil and gas, tremendous amount of risk and danger, especially when drilling and mining first started. We all have friends and family that are like, oh yeah, my Uncle Joe lost an arm and whatever. But it's common now because it is familiar to us. So a lot of risks, a lot of danger, a lot of, but because it's known, we don't even think about it anymore. But because this new, right, is unfamiliar, we seem to be losing our minds about how dangerous it is. Well, it's really not. But I think it's because it's unfamiliar. So it's that challenge that we run into Wyoming, right?
Yes.
It's not what we know. It's not who we are. Yes, and this is how we grow, right? This is how we diversify. It's looking into those things and being open to the possibility that is, instead of just saying no. So I think there is good work and opportunity for us. We have to be open to those conversations. And instead of saying, no, this won't work, it's saying, yes, how do we make this work?
Right.
So it does fit within our ecosystem. So we do feel safe. So we do feel, how do we ensure that happens?
Right.
So I think there's tremendous opportunity, especially in nuclear, in advanced manufacturing. a lot of opportunities. Yeah. Just need to be open to those conversations.
Right. But it's, like you said, it's the fear of the unknown, and it limits a lot of people. But if we would be stopped by our fear, we wouldn't even move to Wyoming or live in Wyoming because of the volcano and Yellowstone. So
exactly.
It's like you got to come down to earth as well. So
I love those. It's like, folks that are concerned about radiation. It's like, you know where you live, right? Take a walk through a prairie anyway, anywhere. And the radiation you're exposed to, even from the sun, is far greater.
Yeah, and breathing oxygen. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are detrimental. But,
a lot of things out there,
right.
But it is that how do we just be open to instead of shut down and refusing to engage in conversation.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Let's talk about Leadership Casper.
Sure,
because that's something you do on the side as well. Another side hustle that takes a lot of your time. What is Leadership Casper for that one person that doesn't know what Leadership Casper is? Why would you encourage someone to do that?
It is. I think one of the programs that is most what I love about it is it's not just in the professional realm, like, technically speaking. We're going to teach you how to, whatever technical skill there is. A lot of skill, but it's for you as a person. So personally and professionally, giving you the tools to be truly your best self, and bring your best self to the work environment and be more successful in your space. So in terms of those personal and professional skills, absolutely amazing and essential, I think. And then getting to know our community better, just the businesses and, the opportunities out there, understanding, some of those things in our agriculture, in our, healthcare, government, just getting, understanding those things better and how they function. And just the networking opportunity is incredible. Yeah, getting to, meet new people and build those relationships. And I love it when people say, oh, I ran into so-and-so and they were in class 8 years ago. But you have you're building those connections, and it just makes our community stronger. So I tell people it doesn't matter who you are, what level you are. You could just be entering the workforce. You could be 40 years in. It doesn't matter. It really is applicable to every single person.
So what is the core mission? The core mission of Leadership Casper? What does it aim to do?
Just building stronger leaders in our community, and building a stronger, business community overall.
And what's the time commitment that's required to go through that program?
So it is, I think, 8 months, because we usually kick off with orientation in August, and then we start in September, wraps up in May. So however many months that is, 8 months maybe. And it's just one day a month. So we start in the morning at 8 o'clock with me in the professional development part. We go 8 to noon. And then the rest of the afternoon is touring and getting to know different businesses and industries in our community and bringing in different presenters. Every month is a theme. So we have, tourism, and we have agriculture, and we have healthcare, and we have government. And so it really is all of those facets that build our community. Yeah.
All right.
It's just one day a month.
And are you the director of it, or do you lead the program?
I'm not. So it's through the chamber, and they have their Leadership Casper committee that really is the oversight, I think. I just do the professional development part. So work with them, right? How do we build? And so, even the topics I was doing 5 years ago are not the ones I'm doing now, right? Because what people need changes. So we all work together to figure out, how do we best meet, and provide relevant skills and information and experiences for people today. What does the workforce look like, and what are we dealing with? So it really is, incredible to watch. But the chamber is the one that it is, their program.
Okay.
And then we all work together to make it happen.
I've heard a lot of positive. I haven't gone through it, but I've heard
Why
a lot
not?
of why not? But there's a lot of positive stories that I hear from it. And the last class was huge. It was like more than 30 people.
Yeah. So applications are open until July something.
July something.
You got a couple weeks.
Right.
So get on it.
And it starts in August or September?
We usually have a orientation kind of kickoff in August.
Okay.
And then first session is in September.
Okay. So they can find that information on the Chamber website. Okay. But if someone wants to find you, how do they find Elissa?
How do they find me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm everywhere. So Facebook, website. So website is just elevatewyoming.com probably. Facebook is also Elevate Wyoming, or just, Elissa Campbell. I'm everywhere. Yeah.
Just find your phone number and call you.
We actually got a note from our LSO, our Legislative Services, and he was reminding me. He said, "You do realize your home address and your personal cell phone are listed?"
Right.
Yeah, because that's how people find me.
There's no filter system. Just come and talk to you.
That's where I am.
So.
That's where I am. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing about what you do and how you're helping businesses thrive and grow and find success. So I appreciate your time today.
I just appreciate you having me back. I would be here every day. This is absolutely, yes, enjoyable.
We'll have to renew this sometime. So
I love it.
All right. Thanks.